It's your voice, your vote, and with just 45 days until the presidential election, Romney's tax returns are raising an interesting question. Why did he pay more than he had to? David Kerley is on the story in Washington this morning. David, good morning to you.
Hey, Dan, the Romney campaign really had hoped to quiet all the critics with the release of this second year of taxes. The question is, will it work? Instead, the controversy has been reignited. Is Mr. Romney actually making himself disqualified for president? Mitt Romney was in Vegas when he revealed last year's taxes. Income of $13.7 million, nearly all from selling stocks and dividends. Taxes paid, just less than $2 million. A tax rate of just over 14%. But to get to that rate, Romney had to do something he told us he doesn't do.
I don't pay more than are legally due. And frankly, if I had paid more than are legally due, I don't think I'd be qualified to become president.
But last year, he did exactly that, paying an extra $500,000 in taxes he didn't know. Why? So he could stick to his statement that he's never paid less than a 13% tax rate. He did it by claiming just a bit more than half of the $4 million given to charity, the Mormon Church, and a healthcare foundation. His campaign also claims Romney paid state and federal taxes for the past 20 years, but it will not release anything beyond 2 years of actual returns. But they did also release some medical reports. Romney, according to his doctor, is a, quote, vigorous, strong, fit male who appears years younger than his age and doesn't drink or use tobacco. The governor does take cholesterol medication and has a slow heartbeat. As for the vice presidential candidate, Paul Ryan, his doctor says his health is excellent because of his vigorous aerobic and strength-building exercises.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
But Ryan's psyche may have taken a hit when he spoke to the AARP and found himself booed when he tried to sell his changes for Medicare.
The first step to a stronger Medicare is to repeal Obamacare because it represents the worst of both worlds.
It was a tough speech for Ryan. Back to Romney's taxes. If he had actually claimed all the deductions available to him, his tax rate would have been just over 10%. Bianna?
All right, David, and for more analysis on all this, we're joined by John Avlon, senior columnist for Newsweek and the Daily Beast. Great to see you.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on. So back in July, Romney said he'd never paid below 13%. This tax rate proves that. This tax return proves that. So is this case closed now?
Well, the Romney campaign desperately wants to put this behind them, but the problem is this issue was fading from view, and now it's back on the front pages. Look, they had a lousy week, so they figured they'd double down on the Friday afternoon news dump and just get it all out there. But the real issue, I think, becomes his 14% rate off $14 million. That's so much less than many middle-class folks make as a percentage of their income and as a tax rate. I think that does raise the issues. If we're having this big fight about 35 over 39 as the top rate, and Mitt Romney, the nominee, is paying 14%, that's still a fundamental problem that I think smacks people as commonsensically not adding up.
And his campaign continues to want to turn the conversation to the U.S. economy. 45 days left in this campaign. What does he need to do?
Well, he needs to stop having a lot of self-inflicted wounds. He has had a lousy week. 2 resets, both undercut by essentially self-inflicted wounds. He does have a strong case to make by focusing on hope and change that hasn't panned out, focusing on the economy that still hasn't worked. But he really needs to stop having these self-inflicted wounds distract from his narrative. And then, of course, the debates in October, his last final chance to turn this thing around. The trend has not been his friend, but this is still very close in a couple of key states. This thing's far from over.
And President Obama didn't go unscathed this week. The Romney campaign pouncing on a statement that he made that you can't fix Washington from the inside. This coming from the same guy who said that he was going to fix Washington.
That's right.
How much traction was that going to get?
Look, the Univision interview did provide a couple of key opportunities for the Romney campaign, and that's one. If President Obama's failed to change the tone in Washington, give us a chance. The key question then is, what would you do differently? How would you reduce the hyperpartisanship in Washington? That created a real opening for that debate, but they needed to seize it with positive, proactive plans.
As you said, a very close race ahead.
Absolutely.
All right, John, great to have you. Thanks so much for coming on. And be sure to watch ABC's This Week tomorrow when George Stephanopoulos talks to Obama campaign senior advisor David Axelrod and Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus.